At the end of 2024, I set myself a challenge for 2025 to read 10 books that I had been actively avoiding for a few years, and if I didn't, then I would have to unhaul them by the end of the year. Did I manage it? Why I'm holding this instead of using the tripod, I don't know. Why I didn't get the book out first, I also don't know, but may as well just hold up the dust jacket. I am about 160 pages into this one. I'm enjoying it. I predicted, definitely in my January TBR and potentially also in the original book that set up what I was going to be reading here, that Ken Follett would get better at writing women and girls as he went on in time. Pillars of the Earth was one of his first published books. Fall of Giants, I believe, came later, and the women and girls were written better in there. And whilst they're still not fantastic, like it's still written by a man, I'm not actively offended. So we're taking that as a win, and I am intrigued. There's some little bits about World War II that I didn't really know about, like the involvement of Spain, not in World War II, but their fascism stuff going on that is interesting to learn about, and I love that we're following families that we were following in book one, and continuing that on and following the generations. So yeah, I'm actually really enjoying, my arm is so sore. I'm actually really enjoying reading this, which I was not expecting. I'm only reading like 25-30 pages a day, so I'm not, you know, going mad. I am taking my time slowly through it and reading my little chapters. Hi Isabel. Reading my little chapters. Yeah, it's going well. I was really expecting to hate read it. I've hate read many things, and I'm not hate reading this. I don't love it, don't get me wrong. Like, at the minute it would be 3 stars, and I would be like, yeah, that's a great rating for this book. So I don't think it's going to be like my next favourite, but I'm actually actively having a decent time, and I'm not hating the thought of having to pick it up each day. So I'm going to take that as a win. I have the flu. Couldn't keep any food down yesterday, so I didn't read yesterday, but all in all, I am 360 pages through this 800-page book, so I thought I should give an update. The men are still being men when it comes to women, but it's acceptable, and Daisy is the main female character that we're reading from, and she's a lot more enjoyable to read from than previous female characters I've read from Follett. This has a very realistic view of the war. This is World War II, talking about how, like, the Blitz is our own fault and what it was like in Spain at the time. These things aren't really covered in UK history, even though we talk continuously about World War II. But yeah, I enjoy that they're actually mentioning that, and I'm actually looking forward to reading it each day. When I was delirious yesterday, having like hot and cold, I was actually yellow at one point. My partner was very concerned, and I was just thinking about Lloyd, which is one of the characters in here. I am reading a couple of other books at the same time, a classic fantasy and a Discworld, but yeah, I'm having a good time with this. I'm not sure if I'm going to catch up on the section that I missed yesterday. I might do that later on in the month when I'm feeling better, because I am just stuck in bed, but the cognizance is decreased. But yeah, I have my fluffy pyjamas and my books and my Switch. I've been playing Animal Crossing again. It's getting to the point where my nose and my sinuses are so blocked that I can't see. So I'm going to have to switch to audiobooks soon. So I don't know how much more I'll get done of this today or in the next couple of days, because yeah, my vision's going to completely go at some point. So here's your update. I have never put myself on the internet looking like this. I'm just looking at myself now rather than the camera, but can you blame me? Like, dear God. So you're all very welcome. I'm sure that's exactly what you came to this vlog for. Quick update. I am still beflued, just better than I was before. This is like 3-4 days after the last time I filmed, so I'm making good progress. I listened to some of this via audio, which was interesting, while I played some Animal Crossing. And at the end of chapter 11 was the Pearl Harbor section, which I thought was very well done. So that is going very well. And then, not that these are part of this reading challenge, but I'm also reading Earthsea for the first time ever. I'm at the beginning of book 3 in this bind-up, and I've just started We Hunt the Flame. Why I'm telling you this, I don't know, because these are not my oldest books, but hey-ho. If you've seen my very hated video on Pillars of the Earth, he, in that book, was writing women really, really poorly, and Fall of Giants wasn't great, but it was better than Pillars. This one, pretty decent. Improving. He's improving over time. Glad to see it. Very glad to see it. So whilst there were some bits, a lot of them were self-aware, which I can deal with. So it was done much better than it had been previously. But to explain what the hell this series is about, there's 3 books. The first book is World War I, second book is World War II, and the third book is the Cold War. And we follow characters and their relations throughout this time period as ordinary people across the world lived through these events. It is incredibly well researched. I will always say that for Ken Follett, regardless of what I think about the actual book. The research done on it is incredible and very, very accurate. I learnt some new stuff in here. I think that the points of view are really well chosen. I went into this book expecting to slog my way through it, and instead found myself utterly absorbed. Now, it still took me the majority of the month. I was realistic about how I was going to get through this, but I found myself absolutely absorbed by this book, and I'm really excited to get to Edge of Eternity now, and I'm debating whether I get to it sooner or later this year. But my first book for the 10 books that I must read in 2025 went off fantastically. Time for a quick little update on The Knife of Never Letting Go. So I have started my second book and I am now 150 pages into it. This is really quick to read, even for YA. I usually expect YA to be even a little bit slower than this, but I'm absolutely blasting through it. Very intrigued so far. At the beginning, it gave me vibes like it was like a weird version of when the religious colonizers settled in North America, but then they mentioned 2 moons, so sci-fi world, but it still giving settler colonialism vibes. And yeah, I'm really intrigued by if you don't know the concept of the book, people can hear each other's noise, hear what they're thinking, essentially, and women can't hear it, and all the women died, but he finds a girl. And yeah, I'm a little bit into it. I'm enjoying it. I'm intrigued. There's going to be a pause on reading it because of weekend events. I'm annoyed it's taken me this long to get to because I'm absolutely blasting through it. Like, I'm going to go on a 3-hour train journey tomorrow, and I'm not even planning to bring this because I don't think it will last me. This will just have to wait. So far, both books are wins, which is good, but really annoying that I've left it this long.
Both sides agreed that on the island of Samson, the dueling would be done, and foe would battle foe.
I have finished Alias Grace. I still hate saying that out loud. This is one of the words that I learn by reading, and so my brain says Elias, and I know it's Alias. This book was a disappointment. It's really well researched. Atwood has like an author's note at the back that says kind of how she used all of the available evidence that was there, but did then embellish bits where there wasn't any evidence to make it flow better for the story. You know, what you expect from a novelisation, a fictionalisation of real-world events. So I think she did that well. I think the research that she did was really well done. There's a lot of referenced texts that she looked at to get the kind of stuff around that time period for the different locations correct. So I think that was all well done. I think her knowledge of the case was really well interwoven and the kind of demonstration of it. But I never had an emotional connection to the book. We're following the life story of a murderess and whether or not she is going to kind of be pardoned, whether she gets to escape living in this penitentiary, or whether she is then hung for her crime, or her perceived crime I suppose, of murdering 2 people. And despite that, I felt very little emotional connection with her. There was also a doctor who was interviewing her to try and see, she had memory loss about some of the events, and so he was trying to interview her to see if he was able to extract those memories. And
he's just weird. Like, the man is just an entirely sexual being, and it's creepy, and if that's how men think, I wish I wasn't straight. That was just really unenjoyable to read from. Again, it could be accurate for men's thoughts. If you are a man and you've read this and it's accurate, please let me know. But that does make me a bit uncomfortable. And yeah, there was just no real emotion to it. It doesn't really draw you in that manner. It's really well done in terms of a text. But I have no emotional reaction to this book, and reading through it was a bit of a slog. I managed to read the last 150 pages in one day, just because I knew that it was just 3 sections. I can do 3 sections, and then it's done. I didn't find myself really wanting to pick it up most of the time. There was one 50-page section. One. Out of this, 550-page book, where I was like, ooh, yeah. And that's it. This was a disappointment. I don't know if I will be keeping it on my TBR. On my TBR? No, I don't know if I'll be keeping it on my shelves. I will for now, but I may end up unhauling it, which is sad because this is from 1996 and I'm weird. That's the year I was born, and that's why I kept the book. So yeah, I'm really disappointed by this one just because there was so much more potential, and I'm surprised that Atwood wasn't able to emotionally draw me in and have me care about any of these characters. I didn't care that anyone was murdered. I didn't really care if our main character Grace was hung or was set free or was in the prison for the rest of her life. I was just like, okay, this is just something that's happening. I was reading it as though it was a non-fiction rather than an enticing story, and not in a good way, because of course this is not entirely factually accurate. It can't be. Yeah, this is just disappointing. But I'm glad I read it. It wasn't bad enough for me to DNF, although maybe some other people would, but I really struggle with DNFing. Like I said, it wasn't bad, and I have heard some people say that they love this, so, you know, it has an audience out there that just isn't me. But yeah, this was not a win for me, unfortunately, but I am glad that I finally read it. And then, oh, it's under a big stack. In April, my read is going to be Cilka's Journey by Heather Morris. I have been putting this off for so long for 2 reasons. One is that there has been some controversy about Morris. I truthfully haven't looked into it. I believe it's something to do with how she's portraying the concentration camps during World War II and her usage of people who were in those camps and her writing their stories. I didn't look too much into it because this book was gifted to me by my parents after I told them how much I loved the Tattooist of Auschwitz, and this I have this like real emotional attachment to presents from my parents specifically, and so I'm like, well, they got me this book, so I'm gonna read it, and I already own it, and it's in hardback, and I don't want to waste my parents' present, and it's got big writing, so I'm reading it. And then once I've read this one, then I'm going to look into the controversy so that I can talk about that properly. The first book, Tattooist of Auschwitz, I read as an e-arc from NetGalley, and that follows Lael, and it's a fictionalised account of his real life experiences in the concentration camp. Cilka's Journey, it mentions on the back that she apparently spoke to Lael about Cilka. I don't know if that's fictionalised or true. This is the part of the issue, I believe. But if they did actually know each other, then Cilka saved Lael's life. She was taken to Auschwitz-Birkenau and was forced into separation from the other prisoners because she was very pretty and was used by the higher officers. Then after the liberation, the Russians charged her as a collaborator, and so she's in a prison camp in Siberia, and it's her attempting to survive that, which I don't know much about the Siberian concentration camps, so this again is going to be another horrible read, which is why I've been putting it off. Hopefully well researched and therefore an entryway into learning more about the Siberian camps. It's going to be a rough one. I may cry, we shall see. I've got it all tabbed up ready. I really was not like in the right emotional headspace for a long time to be able to read it, and now I don't want to because I don't want to be sad, but I know that I'm okay to read it now. So it's either getting through it or it's going, and I don't want it to go without me having read it. So I do not do year-long vlogs. This is my first ever in my life year-long vlog. I know it's March right now, but you ain't gonna see this until what, January 26? Fucking hell. So I'm struggling with this. Oh god. But yeah, disappointing, but at least I read it, and at least the sunshine's coming out now. So I'm about halfway through Cilka's journey. I find these books so readable. Heather Morris's writing is very engaging, very easily readable, and I am getting through this book very quickly. It's not as harsh as I remember The Tattooist of Auschwitz being. I'm wondering if that's because I have grown up since I read The Tattooist of Auschwitz. I was 20 when I read that-ish, so 8 years later have I just kind of emotionally matured that I don't have the same intense reactions as I used to? I don't know. Because I have not cried yet with this one. So the controversy about Heather Morris is basically The Tattooist of Auschwitz. It is based around a man's story that she named Lael, but apparently the man, that's a nickname of his full name, and apparently the nickname was actually spelled L-A-L-I. I don't know if that's pronounced Lally or if it's pronounced Lael and it's just a different spelling. But so she spelt his name wrong according to the man's own descendants. And also a lot of the details that she gave in The Tattooist of Auschwitz didn't line up with reality. So, for example, one of the trains that was used to transport people, she used the modern route of the train. The original train wouldn't have went through these certain cities, but she's just looked up the modern route, assuming that people didn't rearrange the tracks since the 40s. And the tattooed numbers on the arms, fairly important for The Tattooist of Auschwitz, apparently don't actually line up with the real records that they have for people. And if she's already, I would understand for like in this one, in Cilka's journey, there's a character whose name she's changed to protect his identity, so that he has living descendants and they don't wish to be bothered by this, so she's changed the name of the character. And if she was doing that, that would make sense, but these are actual people that we are able to confirm who they are, that she's not changed their names, they have a record, and why are you not using the accurate information about them? Same with like certain incidents in The Tattooist of Auschwitz. I don't want to spoil it, but there are certain horrific acts and certain situations that the Holocaust Memorial Foundations have said it really didn't happen or is very unlikely to have happened. And I'm mentioning that because one of the things that they said was very unlikely to have happened is actually Cilka's entire story before this book starts. So this book has her going off to a Russian gulag because of what she did during her time in Auschwitz-Birkenau, and everyone who has the knowledge said that this did not happen in Auschwitz-Birkenau. That's just some tea, but in terms of treating this as a work of fiction that does depict things that did happen, but it's completely fictionalised, if I go with it on that level, and I will hopefully actually finish this very soon. So there should be an update soon on this one. It'll be like a second for you. So I finished Cilka's Journey by Heather Morris. Let's get this back in its dust jacket and talk about it. Context, because I know that I was talking about issues with this before. Heather Morris is a Kiwi. She is from New Zealand. Again, in terms of this as a fictionalised story, I had a good time with it. I had a good time in this fictionalised tale of real-life horrific events that happened. I truthfully didn't know much about the gulags. It's not something that is covered in British history up until year 9 at least. How old is that? 13? And I didn't take history past that point, so I didn't know details about this. I don't know obviously how true they are, but it's given me a vibe that I do feel like from my own external knowledge is at least relatively correct, even if the details aren't. So I did enjoy learning more about that. We have Cilka doing primarily like a nursing role, and I actually really enjoyed seeing that, and that was a very different viewpoint than we usually get, and I enjoyed seeing that story progress. And yet, despite all of this, despite the fact that the writing I personally find engaging and easy to read through, and despite the fact that the storytelling, again, I find engaging, Heather Morris's controversy stands out above all of it. I will say at the end of the book, there are 2 sections that I do want to mention. There is an additional information section that is written by Owen Matthews. Does a brilliant afterword on the Soviet Gulag system. You've condensed academic research into a readable, easily understood description of this time and place. So that was very interesting to read at the end, this section by Matthews. A little more accurate than other sections had been, for example, and really did summarise what was happening. Obviously it is a very light summary, but it was good additional information to have. There is actually a section written by Morris herself at the end of this, That's just her talking to the reader. It kind of addresses what I'd mentioned earlier from the Tattooist of Auschwitz, where the Holocaust Memorial folks had said that Cilka's situation likely hadn't occurred. It's not mentioned on the blurb, but it's heavily implied. I think that's in case someone picks it up that is not the right age range and then puts it back. So Cilka is sexually assaulted in the Auschwitz-Birkenau, and that is why she's sent to the Gulag, is because she seemed to have been in collaboration with the Nazis. And the, memorials have all said that this did not happen. There is no record of it happening. And I find it interesting then that Morris has got this section. In this bit, she kind of says, oh, it's something that's very common, that men often do this when they are in positions of power. They then utilise that power over women for their sexual desires. And she's right. That does happen in the vast majority of times when men hold power. And we do know that some Jewish women were, I'm going to say the word, saved by being taken in to the quarters and living with some of the people who oversaw the camps. And of course they were then in a privileged position in comparison, but they were still being used as sex slaves, essentially. So we know that happened, but apparently there's no record of someone doing it in Cilka's specific situation, where she was the head of a block, and that block was for the people who were going to be murdered specifically. And I really do want to kind of trust the actual accurate researchers who have been looking into this, who know about the Holocaust, who work at Auschwitz-Birkenau in the modern day and have been doing all of the information gathering. They say that it hasn't happened, and so I believe them. I do understand Heather Morris as a modern 21st century woman going, well, this happens to all women in all conflicts, so it doesn't seem that unbelievable. However, people, especially with the way that she wrote The Tattooist of Auschwitz and the way that she's done Cilka's journey, saying that she's spoken to a survivor and that this is a fictionalisation of things that he has told her as fact, then does make people assume that this is primarily fact, and we just don't know. We don't know, because I mentioned before that I'm not sure what his actual shortening of his name is, because it was disputed by his descendants about the way that Morris wrote it, but I am just going to go in Lael, because I'm not entirely sure, and that is the Tattooist of Auschwitz. Lael kind of had this direct link with her and was telling her this information, and I don't want to discredit his story, I don't want to discredit what he's even told us about Cilka, but then also at the same time, is he misremembering? As a man, he'll have had a very different perspective on things, surely, in the camp, so is he just assuming something that they didn't know? But then they spoke to her afterwards, they were able to reunite many, many years later, and so surely, but then maybe she didn't speak about it, and maybe they thought she wouldn't speak about it. Yeah. I'm rambling, but I think you folks get, my issue with this, taking it as a work of fiction. It was very readable, not as harsh as The Tattooist of Auschwitz was, for me at least. I don't want to say I enjoyed it, because it's a difficult topic, but you guys know what I mean. But then at the same time, with the fact that Morris is saying that she spoke to someone who actually knew Cilka, this is not primary source, a secondary source, but someone who's spoken to her, and then there's inaccuracies there that are quite major and are causing issues. It's a difficult one. I'm glad I finally read it. I nattered for so long the camera cut off. I have conflicting feelings about this. It is well written as a work of fiction, but Morris using this link to a real-life Holocaust survivor and his then link to a real-life Gulag survivor then legitimises what is potentially pure fiction and shouldn't be legitimised as fact. And there's a whole issue there. I don't want to discount Lael and his wife Gita and how they spoke to Cilka and the information that the three of them spoke about, but I also don't want to discount the fact that the Holocaust Memorial Foundations say that this, at least the Tattooist of Auschwitz, is not accurate, and that then informs this book. It's a complicated topic. Yay! Love that for us. As a work of fiction, enjoyed, but I do not know how to rate this, because I have to take into account everything around the book, because that's who I am as a person. I now need to pick what's going to be my next read in April. I have no idea, whatsoever. So many options. Like, I could go with Citadel and, like, finish out a series, or I could go with Edge of Eternity, which is under a big stack of books, and I don't want to lift it right now. But I could go with Edge of Eternity, and that would also finish out a series. They're both big. Or I could go with The Name of the Rose, which is, like, a modern classic. Or I could finally get this off of my TBR shelves, which would be nice to have it off of the TBR shelves, but it's going to be an awkward one to read because it's the physically most awkward, and it's not like I can buy an ebook version of it because it's so image and diagram focused, and that will not translate well to the Kindle. Which I guess means I'm putting it off, which I guess means I should read it sooner rather than later. This one might be it, you know? How's it going so far? I've read 4 of the, is it 10 so far? That's going well. I didn't love them all. I still have Alias Grace here that is probably going to get unhauled, which makes me sad. But, But I am getting through them, and I am proud of that. So, next book!
I'm definitely enjoying this one, reading it mostly outside in my back garden in the sunshine, although it is a little chillier today, hence the cardigan. There isn't much to say about it. It is a non-fiction about the solar system and the universe. It is fairly self-explanatory in that way, but there's a lot of diagrams. It's definitely scientific if you don't already have the knowledge, like even just, you know, someone's taught you it a few years ago. If you've not heard this stuff before, it's going to take a bit of time to comprehend, but I do think it's written well, and I'm glad I'm finally getting through it. I'm definitely moving through it faster than I expected to, and that is helped by the fact that I'm just sat in the sunshine. Also, while I'm here, I have bought some of these like over-ear glasses, sunglasses, and you can see the glasses through. The style is very much not me, but oh my god, I have not been able to see through sunglasses since I was about 7, and this is delightful. And I'm old enough now that the style I don't care as much about. So I am just enjoying my bug-eyed glasses while I finish up the last section of this massive tome on science.
This is a non-fiction that lines up with the BBC production of 2 series, Wonders of the Solar System and Wonders of the Universe. And this is the written form of it. I enjoyed the little kind of insights that you get into the filming side of things, because obviously those aren't mentioned during the filming. So I do like that it does give you a little bit of a different aspect, and there are lots of diagrams and photographs throughout that allow you to conceptualise what's actually going on. Here's a diagram that'll do. I will say that the language is quite scientific. If you haven't taken a GCSE level, so that's 14 to 16-year-old education, science class in the past 20 years, you're going to struggle with this a bit. If you have, it will use the very base knowledge that you have tucked away in the back of your brain and build on that. I feel like that should give an idea of where it's at. And she is done. I think I wrapped it up fairly well before I'd finished in the clip of me outside. Hopefully you can hear what I was saying. But essentially, enjoyed, glad finally read. Why did it take me so long? This seems to be the thing with all of these books. At least I'm getting through them. I'm not sure yet, this is heavy, I'm not sure yet what my next book is going to be because I am only halfway through of May. So I have a lot of time to think about what I'm going to be reading next. There are many options. So yeah, I won't decide just yet. You shall see later. But yeah, that one is a very niche book. I can see a lot of you not wanting to read that one, but if you are interested, it's good. Thanks, car. Doot doot.
Jesus wept. Is this the way you've been all day? It's like sitting at the front of the log flume. It is really... Oh, sakes, lads. That is the weirdest fucking thing. I'm not going to a fucking office with somebody with pictures of brains all over the walls and like there's a brain in a jar on the desk, and I'm going to go, oh yeah, you're very good with brains. How are you about feet?
Okay, where is the book? It has to be somewhere. I have not spoken to this camera for longer than I should have. So there's 2 books I haven't spoken. I don't know why I'm telling you the truth, because I could just easily lie. You would never know. You can't see the timestamp of this footage, and yet here we are. Okay, it's been a while. If I have interspersed some clips here as I've considered doing, you will see that I've had a very busy past few weeks, few weekends, few days. It's been a lot. So I actually haven't spoken to you about The Name of the Rose, but I've also already read Foundation in this time frame. So The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. I enjoyed this, didn't love it, but I gave it 4 stars. What I found really interesting was at the back, Eco talks about the novel, the translation, and how he's written it, and he actually simplifies it in the newer version, I believe in both Italian and in English, because people were spending too long trying to translate the Latin, and he didn't want that to be the focus of the book, and instead wanted things to flow naturally. I read this as a combination of an ebook that was actually of the older version and this newer book, so I thought that that was really interesting and explained the discrepancies and why the ebook seemed a lot more detailed than this book did. But both were very readable, I personally found, so whoever did the translations for this one did a very good job. Let's see if I can find that. William Weaver. I don't know who translated the other version, but William Weaver did this one and he did a great job. This is like Sherlock as a monk, but without so much of the finding of impossible clues, and instead it's clues that are genuinely presented to you as they happen, and he's a lot less egotistical. I really enjoyed this. I'm so glad that I've finally read this after it had been on my shelves for so long, and I really appreciated reading it. It's a mixture of obviously a historical fiction because it's set in the 1300s, and so it's a mixture of that and also the mystery, whilst also teaching you more about the status of religion at this time in Western Europe, which, as someone who knew nothing about that previously, was really interesting, as well as showing you kind of glimpses of regular life for people at that time. I thought this was really well done. I can see why it's a modern classic, and I'm glad I have finally read it. And then, the second book that I need to talk about is Foundation by Mercedes Lackey. This is very different. This is a YA high fantasy. I will say that the start of this book is a little bit too easily done. You've skipped over too many steps with one section, so we do follow Mags for a little bit of time whilst they are enslaved, and then they are saved. And it's the saving bit that's the issue. The saving itself is fine, but Mags then finds out that he actually has a companion, which is essentially a magic mind talking horse. And this magic mind talking horse suddenly explains a lot to Mags through this mental connection. And whilst I understand, and I could see how that would actually happen, and clearly that's just the story has come to the author in this way, as a reader it means we miss out on a lot, or we're told and not shown about a variety of things that I really would have preferred to be done in a different way. Later on in the book, more of the more complex things are drip-fed to Mags from his magical mind talking horse, and that is a much better way for the reader, at least in my opinion, to come across the concepts and to be taught about what's going on in this world. So I did deduct, and it went down to a 4.5 because of that kind of mind dump right at the beginning. However, other than that, this was so good. I struggled to put it down. I actually read this when I was having to travel into the office in a different city. I was knackered and I was still reading like 150 pages of this a day. I finished it in 2 days. I just had a fantastic time. I definitely need the rest of the series. I want to read more from this world. I enjoyed it so much. It's very much in the similar vein, I would put it, you know, collected together with books like The Gift, with things like The Stone of Destiny by Caroline Logan. So high praise, I know. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I'm glad that I was finally pushed to pick it up. And whilst we're here, I have a stack on the ground, because the next book I'm going to be reading is Citadel by Kate Mosse, and I am nervous about this one because it is much bigger than even either of these. Physically it's a similar size, but this is over 900 pages, and it's historical fiction, which is not usually my jam anyway. Thank God it has some magic in it. So we shall see how this one goes, but this has been on my shelf for longer than both of these two, so it's going to be good just to finally get this one gone.
Excuse the hotel room, but we have come to, well, this is Castle Douglas, but we've come to Dumfries and Galloway, and we're going to come and see my grand's grave that I've not been able to see yet, and then also we're going to be like taking a look around, taking some adventures, going places. So I've brought the book. I don't know how much of it I'll read. We shall see. Hopefully a little bit of it. I'm enjoying Citadel. It's a slow start. Both of the other two are slow starts as well, but I'm getting into this one, and I'm getting into it more than I got into the others, but there's also less of the older historical aspect. There's stuff set in World War II, but there's a lot less in this book of the ancient stuff than there was in the other ones. It was never a big part anyway, but it's interesting. I'm enjoying it. I also brought Don Quixote, so I've been buddy reading that with Olivia, and I brought two other books. I did touch Sociopath. I did read some of that, but I've not touched Goldilocks, so as expected, brought more than I needed to book-wise. But up here in Dumfries and Galloway is Scotland's book town, which is Wigton, and we are gonna go and have a look there and see what we can see and see what books I may buy. Wigton was amazing. I only ended up buying one book, but it was really nice to just wander around all of these different bookish shops, and of course we went into a cafe and got a coffee and a cake, because you need to.
Still getting too much grass,
Oh, I'm so tired. We have had a very busy week here in Scotland as I make a mess. But I did bring Citadel with me. I am about 100, maybe 120 pages from the end, and I am actually really enjoying this. I read a little bit when I was here, not too much, about 100 pages, so less than I thought I would,
but nobody's actually that surprised. We've been having such an amazing time here. Oh my gosh, I could have made a vlog just on like welcome to Dumfries and Galloway. My family is from here. I don't think I even introed this. We came to Dumfries and Galloway. It's where my mum is from. We're going to see family, and then because we're driving up, we're making the most of it, and you know, driving around to all these places that I couldn't go when I didn't have a car on my own. And last night we went to the Kukubri tattoo. Kukubri is the town my mum's from. And we went to the tattoo, and that was amazing. But I am looking forward to being in my own bed, because this is not the best hotel room. The window is closed, so we slept well. But yes, I'll put some footage in of my adventures, because why not? And the 8th book is going well. I finished Citadel. I cried. Now I have to pick up the next book, because I managed to finish this at on the 26th of August, so I don't have long before I pick up the next one, which I think is going to be The Dark Vault by V.E. Schwab, just in case. Well, we're doing some travelling in September. We're doing some in October as well, but we might be doing more travelling in September. And this is a little bit awkward to manoeuvre. Please ignore my laundry pile. It's midnight, I'm going to bed, and I didn't put away the laundry that was on the bed. So it's on my book trolley. Leave me alone. Just filmed my TBR. It is The Dark Vault time. So this is 2 books. As I said in my TBR video, I am not sure whether or not I'm going to be reading both of the books in here. The concept sounds really interesting, but I always struggle with V.E. Schwab. How big is the first book? 330 pages, so it's not too big. I could read them both, but we shall see. We shall see how the vibes go, because like I said, I struggle with Schwab. Her ideas are fantastic and other people love her writing, but I get no emotional connection whatsoever to her characters or the story. But this sounds really cool. Each body has a story to tell. The dead are called histories, and they rest in the archive, and we're following Mackenzie Bishop, who's followed in her grandfather's footsteps, and she's become a ruthless keeper tasked with stopping often violent histories from waking up and getting out. Like, this sounds fascinating. And I wish I liked Schwab's writing, because I'd really enjoy it if I did. However, I was expecting, as I make a mess, to struggle more with Citadel. I mean, this is a huge book. This is bigger than the bind-up of these two, even if it doesn't physically look like it. I ended up crying at the end of this. I was still debating. I gave it 5 stars, but there's a hair here. Get off. I gave it 5 stars because it made me cry. The ending is very realistic, shall we say, rather than a happy ending. Part of me still didn't feel like, you know, that 5-star feeling with the book, but it made me cry. So like, it's probably like a 4.9. But I've not had that 5-star feeling this year, and it's infuriating. However, I was expecting this to be like a 3 on a good day, and instead I'm arguing whether it's a high 4 or a 5. So I'm very, very pleased with this. This whole series is fascinating. I obviously would prefer to have more fantastical elements in it, because I am primarily a fantasy reader rather than historical, but the amount of research that Kate Mosse puts into these, and in the back of all of the editions I've got, I find it fascinating. She has like these tours, essentially, that you can go on, and it's bits that are relevant to the story in the book in the actual region, and she explains which bits are completely fictionalised and which bits she has, like, fiction-upped. The fuck is wrong with me? There's some bits that are entirely fake, and she tells you what those are, and then there's some bits that did happen and she's added her fictional characters into them. The amount of research and effort that she puts in is amazing. There are some bits of usage of the French language in here, and I had been struggling with them because I just had no clue what was going on, and then, because I know no French. I have an A at GCSE, I don't know why, but I do know some German, and it's World War II based, so there are Nazis in here. And as soon as there was some German, I understood what she was doing. So when she mentions anything in non-English, it's then repeated later. It might not be exact, but it gives you the same vibe, so you can read the bits if you don't know either French or German. You can just read them, and then you'll get the entire gist from the stuff that's in the English. You don't need to worry about translating anything. I didn't realise at all until it said something in German and then repeated it, and I was like, oh, that's what she's doing with the French. Okay.
because yeah, my knowledge of French is atrocious. So there is a little bit of that, but it is all translated, etc. You don't need to worry. And yeah, I found this really interesting. I did not know about this side of France in World War II. Obviously, as a Brit, we are taught, we did amazing, look at the shit the Germans did. And there's so much more to World War II than that, obviously. And I had no idea about the essentially concentration camps that were present in France. And whilst it makes logical sense that, oh, France was invaded, so of course the Germans made them round up their Jewish population. But no one had ever said that, and so I'd never realised until I, like, got to the bit where it happened in the book, and I was like, oh shit. Like, I just never clicked that that happened. I didn't do history after year 9 in school, which is what, how old are you? 13? So give me some leeway. But yeah, I really enjoy learning more about an era of history that I didn't previously know about, and yeah, had a great time with this. I wasn't sure if I was going to read both books in here, both the Archived and the Unbound, in 1 month, but I did, and I actually enjoyed this more than the other Schwab content I have read before. I still didn't love it. This is no higher than a 3-star, but compared to the other Schwab books, it keeps happening. For me, with Schwab, her ideas are fantastic, but her specific execution I seem to really struggle with. I don't seem to ever care about the characters. I did this via audiobook, and I think that helped, because I already usually have a slight separation anyway when I do audiobook versus physically reading. The concept of this book is that we are following a young girl, and she is YA, and she has access to this, like, library, and everybody has a story to tell, a life seen in pictures only librarians can read. The dead are called histories, and the vast realm in which they rest is the archive. And we're following Mackenzie Bishop, and she is someone who takes the souls back to the archive to rest when they have escaped and are disruptive and unhappy. And obviously shit goes wrong. There's souls that get out that shouldn't be out, and there's badness, and it's an enjoyable read. 3 stars, which is good for me with Schwab. Oh, yes. You having your bed half hour? So I just finished filming some YouTube videos, and therefore it is time for my catch-up, because I am bad at vlogging and never remember to do anything. I'm also reading this via audiobook, so there's not much to see. But I am reading Edge of Eternity by Ken Follett. This is the 10th and final book of this damn challenge. It is currently the 10th of November. I don't have my glasses on because it reflects awfully from the window, so I can't see. And I'm 305 pages into this over 1,000 page behemoth, and I'm so excited that I'm almost done with Ken Follett. I don't plan to read any more from him with this series, which is 3,000 pages long overall, but also with this challenge. Once I've read this, I will have read all 10 books that I set out to read. I think, I haven't checked, I'll have to do like some sort of wrap up, but I'm pretty sure I've never actually succeeded in one of these before, and I've not unhauled the books, I just kept them. So, at least I'm reading them. There's a win. Ugh. But yes, this book is, I don't know if I've mentioned before, I don't know if I even introed that I was reading this. I'm really bad at vlogs. I'm really sorry if you've got this far watching it. I don't think this was any good as a video, but I appreciate you. I love you. And in return, you can find out that this is the 3rd book in a series that is all about the big wars that have happened in modern day world. The first two were World War One and World War Two, and this is about the Cold War. And we follow the same families, which I do enjoy throughout the whole series. So obviously by this point, the people that were in World War One, especially the ones that fought, are mostly dead. However, their children, their grandchildren, and all of that, we are still following them and seeing their lives and how this is all interlinked, and how these American and European families, because it does focus on America and on Europe, have been so impacted by these three wars, kind of bam bam bam, one after the other. I will also say that from what I know, I don't know anything about the Civil War. I went into this blind. My parents were born in the late 60s. I know nothing about the Civil War. The Civil War was in the 1600s, not the 1960s. I know nothing about the Cold War. But I will say that everything that I saw from books 1 and 2 were really accurate, and there was stuff in there that I didn't know as someone who's read quite a lot of World War fiction, and I went and researched it. All true, all accurate, obviously fictionalised for the tales of people, but all the events are accurate, and people did do the actions that these people are taking, it's just not these actual people. So I will say that Ken Follett fucking does his motherfucking research. Man does his research, which must be a lot, especially with, I mean, I guess that explains why the books are so long, because he's like, but it must be accurate, so I have to... But yeah, I simultaneously enjoy and don't enjoy these books. They have gotten better written, especially in their writing of women, as the times went on, which is hilarious, because that's actually as humanity gets closer to the present day, and so you could kind of be like, but no, he's just got better at writing, and so that does make it more enjoyable to read. It's like now just like what you'd expect from a man writing women, whereas in like Pillars of the Earth and the first book, it was offensive, it was bad. It was bad. But this is perfectly fine now. I'm perfectly happy to read this. It is very much woman written by a man, but it's fine. And it's really well researched, like I said, and I'm kind of enjoying it. I'm kind of not and kind of am. It's a weird mix, because I don't have any particular affinity with the Cold War. It didn't really have the same, like, impact in terms of we then learned about it in school or anything. No. I've been to a Cold War bunker on my birthday one year. This is interesting, I'm getting through it. I don't think I'm going to enjoy this as much as the other two, even though the writing has improved, because I care less about the Cold War than I do about World War I or World War II. Just from exposure. This is the first thing I've ever read about the Cold War in my life. Never studied it at school. So I'm looking forward to seeing kind of what happens to these families, making good progress. It's going to be a slow one. I think I should finish it in November, which is very exciting, because then I have December like off from reading my like these books will expire books, but if I don't, then I have some extra time to finish this behemoth. So I've been filming this on my lunch break, so maybe I should go and get some actual lunch.
Excuse my front camera, but it is done. I have finished the Centuries trilogy. I have read Edge of Eternity. I never have to read any more Ken Follett ever again. And this also means I have read all 10 of my books. Oh god, okay, a proper wrap up will come now. I just have to say, 1004 pages. That took a long time, but at least it's done now. And I get a break for a month before I start again on next year's.
So yes, I finished this yesterday, but I finally finished Edge of Eternity by Ken Follett. Oh, I am so glad. This is the third book in the Centuries trilogy. Book 1 is World War I, World War II, and this one is the Cold War. This is following the same family of characters throughout, multiple different families. I will say that the diversity in here is a lot better than I expected overall from Follett, from his writing from Pillars of the Earth. We have gay characters, we have disabled characters, we have black characters, we have communists, we have Christians, we have atheists, and I appreciate that he's tried to include as many realistic depictions across of the United States and also Britain and Germany. The historical research for these is undisputed. It is incredible. I cannot overemphasize how much research Follett puts into these. He clearly has done so much in-depth looking at everything, and being able to place his characters into events or see them experiencing the events is just incredibly well done. I will never take any flowers away from him for this because, oh my gosh, so well researched, all of his books. I will say that the writing is better than it was in Pillars. If you haven't seen, I have a very bad review on Pillars of the Earth up here that I get a lot of hate for. That one is incredibly sexist and disgusting. It improved a lot. This is written much later than that, and it has improved a lot, his writing of women. This one had a lot more of the, like, women being sexual objects than I wanted, but also a lot of it is set in, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, like, you know, that time where it was very sex heavy. So I'm going to just leave that as is. It was much better in Winter of the World, and I was not as offended. It was just more than I'd expected from a historical novel, but it's fine. Would I recommend this series? If you're a man, yes. If you're a woman, only if you love historical fiction that is set in these 3 time periods. So the next clip you will see of me will be my wrap-up of this. I need to actually collate all the books, and I'm going to do like a stats rundown and everything. But yeah, I did it. I finished the series. This is 1004 pages long. Thank God that's done. Yeah! I did! I'm so happy! This bodes well for the 2026 version of this challenge. Hopefully I am this successful by the end of 2026. We'll have to wait and see. Thank you so much for watching, folks, and I hope I will see you in the next video. Bye!